Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center. And for nearly 3 decades now, I've been working with accounting professionals to help them start and build successful accounting businesses. It's here that we discuss those various components of what it is that it takes for you to be successful. It's not just mindset, but it's also things related to your employees, tech stacks, training them so that they can offer quality services and take care of your clients, onboarding clients, retaining clients, marketing, sales, pricing, a variety of things that you need to be considering as you're working to offer not only quality services, but to get paid what you're worth. It's here that we bring on the experts each and every week to experience what it is that they have to share with us as accounting professionals. And today's going to be an excellent conversation. This happens to be Rhamy, whom I've had on the show before, and we're happy to have him back because he's someone that actually brings an expertise that I believe that we all need to be considerate of. He actually has started with his wife a number of years ago and are owners of People Processes. It is a leading provider of comprehensive HR solutions. Their complete HR program empowers organizations with fully outsourced HR department, seamlessly integrating every role from associate to business partner and team manager. Rhamy is dedicated to empowering businesses to scale with confidence and purpose. Both he and his team work with hundreds of companies across the United States, helping them learn how to stop publishing papers and start prioritizing people. So Rhamy, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, this is something I think we need to do more often because I again and again run into HR issues, and I'm always thinking of you as I go through the process. So let me just more or less kind of update or remind my guests or my audience what it is that you not only do, but how you got into this. Give us a little bit of a backstory.
Oh, man. Well, it's the joke I always make, but just like every 13-year-old boy, there I was, dressed up with a clipboard and some bad glasses. I want to be in HR when I grow up. No, I got into this 16 years ago. My wife and I started a company focused on employee benefits. My background's in labor economics. I actually work with the Federal Reserve on economics issues. I'm a nerdy, bad economist. And benefits is a big part of compensation. That's your major medical, your dental, your vision, but also things like time off and maternity and flexibility, all these things that go into it. And my education was around quantifying that, right? So do you give someone a 50 cent an hour raise or lower their deductible $300? And which one's going to help you retain and attract talent better?
Yeah.
Started with that almost 2 decades ago. And very quickly, as we moved, honestly, down market, it became more and more obvious that we had to be more holistic. Up market, we could sell that consulting package to companies with 10,000 employees all day. But when you get to a 100-person company, they didn't want to just do analysis. They wanted us to answer questions like, well, who do I hire? And what do I hire? And how do I pay them? And hey, we don't even have enough good records to figure out what we're spending, much less do some sort of complex analysis. So within about 4 years, so the last 12 years, we've been serving as the HR departments for organizations across the US. And we still come at it from that kind of economics perspective, right? How do we generate the greatest return on investment when it comes to labor? And how do we minimize our risk, right? Mitigate our risk in this whole employment situation. And yeah, that was the journey, man. Started with just I wanted to do nerdy number stuff. And then it turned out I had to talk to people and be an HR guy.
I love it. Well, you do a great job of it. So this is one of the things that I'm excited to kind of delve into because as accounting professionals, we oftentimes, especially in small and mid-sized businesses, find ourselves dealing with the HR-related things. In a larger corporation, HR is a totally separate department. It's
Right.
perhaps even handling the payroll. But in a smaller organization, we deal with the payroll. We're dealing with such things as the benefits, the 401k, the HSA. These are things that are questions asked of us. The owners expect us to have some thoughts or insights. So as we do have a love for systems and processes, and as accounting professionals like that, many business owners do treat HR as an afterthought. So why, when you look at HR, are we often missing some of the pieces that a company needs for strategic growth? What can we as accounting professionals maybe bring to the conversation?
Sure. Well, I think there's kind of 2 big concepts that would really help if we don't talk finance.
Okay.
Finance, think about this. One is labor productivity. So I want you to think about if you're spending X dollars on labor, how much of that is actually at average or greater productivity? So when you lose an employee and that role is unfulfilled, you're missing that person's productivity. You're not missing, your P&L went up technically, right? You're not paying a salary anymore. But there's a reason you needed that person. So you lost revenue. So to start thinking about labor in terms of the money you put in as an expense, but the money that the company generates as its return. So start thinking about in terms of productivity, and then look at compensation as a total package. So think about, I'm spending so much money on salaries and taxes and workers' comp and those things. Also, I provide 15, 20 days of sick leave and 10 days of holiday and these benefits and these and 401k match, and try and understand that that's your total investment and compare it to the productivity you get out of it and see where you can make tweaks in order to get those better returns. That's the broad structure of what we do. And most finance professionals, if they think about it in those terms, are actually pretty good at it, right? They're able to think about, but I think the piece that most of them miss is the idea of that productivity, right? That if you had no employees, you would have no income, right? Zero. So employees are both an expense, but it's really hard to figure out what that return is. And that's where the magic comes in of a good people processes system. You're starting to see how the spend turns into return.
I appreciate you putting it in that perspective, because I oftentimes view every employee that way. And I think it's a healthy way of looking at them, because every dollar spent is either in that payroll point of view in an effort to generate additional revenue, or it's meant to actually mitigate some expense. Having them there, we're saving money somehow.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it can be indirect. Oftentimes it's best when it's directly correlated. It's easier to manage that way. But there are some indirect correlations, meaning hiring this individual may have actually freed up my time so that I can go actually do more revenue producing activities, or I can go do things that are cutting expenses. So it's maybe not that they specifically are doing a task that's enabling that, but it's freeing up someone else to do exactly that. So to your point, that payroll does come at a cost, but it should have a direct or indirect correlation to a revenue or to an expense savings. And so I think that's a great discussion on that part. So I think this is maybe a great way to segue then into your philosophy of moving from processes to people, because so often we get tied up in the minutia of the process, and we sometimes, at least from an HR perspective, don't see the individual. And I'm just kind of curious, why is it that we need to consider that shift and be critical about what might be happening in business when we forget about the people?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of, again, talking conceptually,
Yeah.
but you're all familiar with 80-20, right? You're all familiar with the Pareto optimality of creative enterprises. That's the economics term of it. But 20% of your problems come from, or 20% of your clients give you 80% of your revenue, or 10% of your clients give you 90% of your problems. You probably heard these rules of thumb before,
Yes.
right? 80-20. Employees are just like that. And there's a big thing to understand with that. Let's say you've got a 100-person company. 20 of your employees there are probably doing half to 80% of the work and value in your organization. And it's very difficult to know which 20. They are the 20%, or the actual rule, if nerds, economic nerds, it's the square root of the sum of the creative individuals. So if there's 100 people, 10 of them do 50% of the work, 20 of them are moving you a standard deviation, you're at like 87%. That's the math on it. But when you get to 1,000-person group, 45 people are doing about half of the value of the enterprise. It gets crazy.
Yeah.
And you often can't necessarily tell who they are. And they are often the people with the most options, because they are your best employees. So when we think about how to structure these compensations, these policies, these programs, you often are looking at these average costs. You're looking at the median expense. You're looking at these sorts of items. But the truth is, you're really just trying to keep that talented 10th in your organization and growing. That's going to drag your whole company up. And so we have to think about it in terms of the people, the specific people that we're working with, and make sure that we're keeping those absolute best ones. Because what you'll find in a 1,000-person organization, if that 40, the most talented, and it could be a office coordinator well down the line that's holding together the entire finance department. But it's hard to tell. If you put in place programs that target the median, you may wind up losing that top 1%, right? You might lose that top 40, 50 people. And that will have a huge adverse impact on the company itself. So when I talk about focusing on people rather than necessarily process, process is important and it's the way we scale and grow our organizations, but you have to not target the median, but instead target that talented 10th. It really is the engine behind your organization. So a lot of HR companies and HR professionals make a major mistake there. They're thinking about the averages and not those incredibly motivated top people that you have to keep because they're worth more than half your company.
So maybe I want to dive into this a little bit further. What I'm hearing you speak of are the exceptions, these individuals that are exceptional, and that sometimes the processes hide who those individuals are or mask what they're actually contributing. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I think, the name of my company is People Processes. I think both are important. I think you need processes, man. But what I'm pointing out is that those processes need to take into account not the average or the worst case scenarios. They need to be targeted such that you are maintaining the absolute top of your talent pool. And yeah, people in the bottom 25th percentile get to drag on those coattails a little bit. But the keeping of that top talent is so very important. So when I think about HR, I'm constantly thinking about how do we keep in your organization, Roger, 50, I don't even know how many people are in your organization, but 50 people. There are 5 or 10 people in there that are the business. 40 great people that we want to grow, but I got to make sure that what we do at a process level affects those people correctly. And it's often hard to tell who they are.
So this is interesting because I do know that I have these individuals that you're speaking of, the exceptional person that really makes a big difference within the organization. But as the owner and manager, one of the things that I find as a challenge is how can I take what they're doing and duplicate it? And oftentimes it comes down to processes. It's looking at their tasks and what they perform and how they go about doing it to say, can I actually record or document this in a way that I could have someone else do the same thing and get similar results? And so it goes from this extraordinary person to finding that process that then means they're no longer extraordinary because I've got the steps that they're doing documented that someone else can do them. So for me, I'm trying to actually say, can I actually copy this person?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so that's operationally. You're taking the talented person, you're figuring out the process and you're putting it out. That's what we do when we're talking about coming in as an HR company for your clients as an accountant or for your accounting firm itself. We're taking the processes that we've developed over hundreds and hundreds of engagements, the very best ones that have resulted in the greatest return on investment, simplest risk mitigation at the lowest cost, those sorts of items, and applying them to your organization. And I didn't come up with all of them. Some of my great employees, we go, that's what we should do. And the way they deal with an upset employee or the way they deal with an investigation or complaint or all of those are processes that we build. And you have to have processes, as you mentioned, because they are the way that you, what's the old thing? You don't rise to your goals, you fall to the level of your standards, right? Your processes. So they're necessary. But HR people know that. They're checklist people, right? Have you met an HR person who doesn't like a checklist? They are process people. And so often where we differ is that in our organization, we have to think about our processes to address the unusual, right? It's not about creating the standard operating procedure that everybody gets. You have to modify it. You have to change it for each client in their special circumstances to the people involved in it. It doesn't mean that we're making exceptions left and right to put us all in jail, right? We are HR in the end, right? We are here trying to keep you compliant, but we recognize the people element of it is a bigger factor than most, I think, HR companies do.
Interesting. No, I appreciate that because I would have always thought HR is more focused on the people and just by its very nature is more interested in the well-being of the employee workforce. So that's kind of how I would have perceived it from the get-go. But nonetheless, I think this is a healthy perspective to consider.
Learn the turnkey process for starting and building a successful accounting business.
It's in this course that you'll actually experience 4 specific trainings. Part 1, your business plan, everything you need to know to get started. Part 2, how to price your services, the pros and cons of different methods and the best way to price your services that are both profitable and professional. Marketing and selling your services so that you can actually be top of mind, but more importantly, how to actually be seen as a trusted strategic advisor. And last of all, mapping it all out. 5 principles in running a profitable business so that you can be both competent and confident in the services you're providing. Learn now what it is you can be doing to start and build your own successful accounting, bookkeeping, or tax business. Go to the episode description and there get the information you need to take advantage of this today. So I'm going to use this as a transition then, because as accounting professionals, we're working with a lot of our clients, we're working with our within our businesses. And as we're running the company, one of the things that we're realizing is accounting is still the language of business. And I'm curious, there may be early warning signs, indications within the numbers that are suggesting that there is something that the HR process is holding back, that maybe not helping the business. And I'm just curious, are there any indicators that might be worth taking note of or being aware of that we might be able to highlight today?
Well, there are lots of heuristics that we use, but they're often, you want to take a look at what the company's doing from a process perspective around their people. You want to see if they have correct processes when it comes to job development, to recruiting, to onboarding, to performance management, how they manage their compensation. There's lots of processes involved in that are specific to HR. For an accounting professional, if you're just looking at their P&L and how do you figure out whether or not they are even remotely optimized, some of the things that I would think about quickly are your percentage of tax advantage spend versus traditional spend when you look at your payroll.
Okay.
Right. So if you think, all right, I've got a $2 million payroll, a small company, 15 employees or 25 employees or something like that. I have a $2 million payroll. That's my actual salaries on there. If they're spending less than $200,000, 10% on medical, dental, vision, insurance, disability, life insurance, that kind of thing, the likelihood is that they're leaving significant retention on the table. There have been multiple academic studies that basically show, the most recent one was in 2022, so take these numbers as a little bit of a grain of salt, but once people reach about $17 an hour, above that, $1 in benefits spend is worth about $1.70 in salary. It's more likely to attract and retain, lower your turnover, those sorts of things. There's a reason large companies spend in the 30 percentile of payroll on benefits. Things like major medical, dental, vision, and including retirement programs. So when you look at large companies, they are often spending, if they have $100,000 salary, they're spending 30 grand a year on benefits. Okay. This is a quick heuristic. I go into small companies all the time and they're spending nothing, or they're spending 7%, 8%. The likelihood is that they're missing very good talent by doing so. They could likely either lower their pay, lower their salary, and over time, not do as large a raises and increase their benefit spend, or spend more money on benefits and attract better talent. So there's a nice quick heuristic there that 10% of payroll is really the BLS says, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says that's about where the majority of small businesses are participating in the benefits world. So I would start with there. If you're looking at your P&L and you see very small spend there, you got a problem. Now, if you see it in the 20s and 25%, likely in a small business, you got another problem, right? You've probably gone the other direction.
I'm liking this part of the conversation because I like numbers. I like looking at what the margins are, see what percentage accounting is showing that payroll makes up of the expenses as it relates to gross profit and so forth. I mean, those types of analysis are things I enjoy doing, but you're bringing a little bit more clarity to this. I didn't realize that there was an actual percentage. I expect there would be, but I wasn't familiar with it to know that larger institutions are actually spending that much in their allocation of benefits. And here's my point. I've got a son-in-law that actually works for an organization where they do have an in-house cafeteria. They provide free lunches and meals to their employees so that they don't have to leave where they're working and go elsewhere. It's one of these cultural things that they actually provide an environment where everyone can not only get food, but now socialize around the tables as they're meeting and eating together. There is something significant to be said when you break bread with someone else. And so all of a sudden what's happening is the company is clearly paying for not only the food, but the chef and also the lunch area where they're providing the accommodations for all of this. So, I mean, it's a huge expense on that part. And when you're looking at a large organization, you divide that out over the mass, and you can see it's a well worth investment within the organization to not only create that culture, but to hire people. You're able to take them as the recruiting process through this lunch area and actually point out that this is one of the amenities that's provided by the company when you're employed here. And then in addition to that, there's that savings that the individual is getting because they don't have to go out and actually spend money on lunches. So there's a lot going on here, but that cost, as it relates from an accounting point of view, is within range when you're looking at it as, does it make up with the sum of the health insurance and the 401ks and so forth? Is this actually something that the company can afford? And if it's within that 20% range, as you indicated, maybe it's something that somebody could justify. On smaller companies, I could definitely see the justification to say, well, are we actually providing lunch once a week for the employees, bringing it in-house, having it catered, providing something, again, culturally that everyone gets to benefit from? So I see its application, but now you're bringing that financial clarity that I think is very helpful, because I always wonder, is it too much? Is it not enough?
Sure.
Am I doing it often enough? And with that financial clarification, I can now look at it through the lens of accounting.
Yeah, and those sorts of course, numbers, of course, vary across industry, vary across location, whether you're government, union, construction, all these things change. So there's lots of good information out there. Of course, you can always contact us if you need some data real quick. But what I would say is, when you think about, when I separate benefits into core benefits, supplemental benefits, and what I call the wow factor.
Okay.
Okay, so this is just about benefits. Core benefits are your major medical, your dental, your vision. Okay, that's what most people think about. And I also put retirement in there. So that's your pension, 401k, vested, whatever you're going to wind up doing there.
Okay.
Core benefits, when you include retirement, average about 14% in companies that have fewer than 50 employees and 18% in under 100. So those are your two quick numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of that, but I'm sorry, I said average for our accounting minded people. Median throws out the zeros. Okay. Because fewer than half, it's like 52% of companies with fewer than 50 just don't offer major medical.
Okay.
And they're just leaving money on the table. They're being very silly. It's a silly way to compensate. Because these are super tax advantaged, right? In comparison to giving someone $300 a month, paying $300 a month for their health insurance, you're not paying Social Security, Medicare. They're not paying Social Security, Medicare, or income tax on their portions. So if you think your income tax bill plus the 14.5% for Social Security and Medicare, that's your coupon just for providing it through you rather than buying it directly. Not to mention the economies of scale and those things.
Yeah.
So those are some quick numbers for you. Supplemental benefits, I normally target at about 3% in that smaller range, maybe as high as 5%. And that's something where you're looking at dental and vision, pet insurance, AFLAC, your indemnity policies. There's some things in there. Pet insurance has been wildly adopted.
Yeah, short-term disability and so forth.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then your wow factor. Now, what I always try to do, again, this is just one of those where you can spend money or you can spend time and effort. So you talked about a cafeteria. Cafeteria is an incredibly complex thing to run. Of course, it's a restaurant. I mean, licensing and insurance and Lord, you got to hit a certain scale before you get there. I have many clients that pay for a cleaner on staff that goes around to, there's about 40 employees. I normally see this in the like 30 to 50 range, but I've seen it as small as 7.
Okay.
They literally hire a cleaner. They go to the employees' houses once a month or once every other month or something like that. And just go out and clean their houses, do their laundry, that kind of stuff. You can be very creative with these things. Another common one is telehealth, counseling, like a mental health program.
Uh-huh.
In some organizations, that's incredible. All therapy is free, right? Anytime you need to go talk with a therapist, whatever, for you, your spouse, and your kids. There are programs like that are highly affordable, that are standalone insurance basically for those. Whatever you can do to wow them out. I have a construction company where they cover. They have an agreement with their car dealership, their local car dealership, for trucks and truck build outs, and they have a whole program for basically the guys getting their own trucks.
I love it.
A wow factor. Small percent, 1 or 2.
Yep.
Don't go wild on this, but they'll talk about that. That's your remarkable thing, the thing that people remark on. It takes a whole lot of core benefit spend for people to talk about how good your major medical insurance is. You gotta be in like platinum range, really good. But you can do a pretty average medical plan and throw on dry cleaning, and that we clean your house once a month, and their wife will never let them leave. Right? What do you mean you're gonna quit that job? They send a cleaner out to our house twice a month.
Yeah.
Like, and the spend is so much. It's very affordable. So those are some creative ways you can look at for your organization, especially if you employ professionals like your accountants. The first company I saw that had that cleaner set up, they had dry cleaning at the office. Bring your clothes. They had a dry cleaner come every day, pick it up, covered by the company. And they had a cleaner that went out to their houses. And I think it was once every 2 weeks, was an insurance agency. And they had about 75 employees. And I mean, when they're recruiting, it's like, yeah, you get paid. Look at this shiny thing. And it worked. They were stealing guys who made $500,000 a year from other agencies because, what do you mean? I get a cleaner? And I could just bring my dry cleaning here? It'd be awesome.
That is amazing. Yeah, one that wasn't mentioned, and my daughter really raves about hers, is daycare. She actually has
Absolutely.
a daycare facility that's on property that the business subsidizes, and so it actually makes it a little bit more affordable for her and the peers that she has in the company that have children that are younger. And obviously, it's something that's on site, so it's a lot more convenient for her as a mother to know her daughter's nearby. So those types of things are clearly beyond those core things that you'd indicated. And you had mentioned that this is generally about a 1 to 3% of gross. Is that what you're basing that on?
Yeah, that's normally what I budget. But
Okay.
let me clarify. You got to get the core right first. You do have to pay an hourly wage that is appropriate. If you're paying in the bottom 10% of your industry, daycare probably isn't going to lower your turnover that much. Right?
Yeah.
But if you're in the median area, this is how you plus it up.
Yes. The wow.
And for core benefits, things like major medical, dental, vision, and retirement, I want to make clear, blows me away. But I often see companies trying to reach for the wow before they cover any part of the spousal premium or any part of the child's benefits coverage, right? They'll cover 50% of employee only and none of the rest. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's where you're at in your business. That's the max you can spend. But if you want to attract people who are established, who are got families, who are not moving every 8 months, who, right, like, spend some money on their spouses and kids.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to make clear that there's a little bit of a progression here. Before you put in a daycare or a cafeteria, can you make sure that they can make sure their wife or husband doesn't, need to go on the exchange or have some individual health insurance issues? Just want to put that aside. But my WOW budget's normally 2%. That's what I try to look at. That's my quick and short, is about 2%. And this, again, smaller companies. When you get larger, you get more sophisticated with these things. But
correct.
In the smaller companies, 2% on a WOW. Think about that. You spend $2 million a year on your payroll. 2% is significant. That's 40 grand, right? What can you do with 40 grand that's going to make employees post about your organization, talk about that company they worked for once that did this, tell their friends about it? And how much value is that? That lowers your time to hire from 150 days to 110. It's going to make somebody reconsider resigning, especially that talented 10th. Again, the average employee, maybe it moves your average a little bit. I hope it does in terms of retention, but it's a truly unique benefit that maybe your competitor doesn't offer, right? So that's why you see in tech or wherever your kiddos work with these extravagant benefits. It's because they are in an extreme competition for talent. It's not just because they like taking care of kids and paying for lunch. they are trying to keep that incredibly talented portion of their staff from going anywhere else.
Okay, so I want two things here to clarify. And before I do this, I want to make a comment. The comment I have is basically that there are two huge things that are being accomplished here. One is acquiring new employees. You've got to have something that draws in and makes the hiring process a lot more appealing and easy so that you can actually acquire the good talent that you're looking for. So obviously that compensation package, ranging from not only what they're compensated monetarily, but also the benefits, is a core component of this, because that's what you're going to be basically selling them as to why come work for you. But then on the flip side, it's the retention. You've done all this work to actually bring them in. You've invested in them. You've trained them. So the question is what can you do now to retain them? And these retention things are part of the culture, but more importantly, are investments on your part to actually keep them. And so I think that two-sided coin of what are we doing to actually be appealing to bring in the right talent? And then secondly, what can we do to make sure we're retaining those individuals as well? And if you can see that your hiring process is shorter and your retention is longer, then you're actually achieving what you're hoping to achieve simply because of these things that you're putting into place and clearly spending money on. You were going to say something.
Yeah. Well, think of it. Most of your listeners are operators, right? They're people running accounting firms. You can do all of the accounting right, but communicate poorly, send them fuzzy black and white copies of their tax returns and their books, slightly off center, on bad photocopy via UPS mail. You can, when they sign up for you after selling them for months, you can schedule their first meeting and send them a package of 600 pages of paper to fill out and say, call me when you're done. And still be a great accountant. You know accounting, but your business is not going to be very successful, right? We all know that those are very silly. So you can pay the right dollar figure. You can provide benefits, but if you're not spending any effort on making them attractive, communicating well, making sure people understand them, that their expectations match the reality of what they get, right? It's all the same things as in sales with a business owner, right? When you're trying to get a client, you want to give them remarkable moments. You want to give them attractive, understandable guidance. You wouldn't pass the what, I can never say that,
The baton?
Yeah. Like you wouldn't take just a accounting journal article and forward it to them and be like, read this, it's how we do accounting. You would put your spin and make it something that they would appreciate and understand, right? It's the same for employment communications. You got to go in there and you can make huge differences in your retention and your ability to recruit just by doing the pretty stuff better. We're not even talking about spending any amount more money. But I find that the majority of small businesses, they can spend $100,000 or $500,000 a year on benefits and not spend $2,000 on color copies or a digital system to enroll them or some method by which they're actually communicating these things outside of just, oh yeah, call the carrier. Like you're leaving so much money on the table. And it can have a huge effect on your retention and attraction.
Well said. Very good points.
Get your free copy of the book In the Black, 9 Principles to Make Your Business Profitable. This is a how-to guide for accounting professionals to work with their clients and actually implement proven processes and systems to ensure that their clients make profit a priority. It is in this book you'll actually learn how to map the business and, in fact, make marketing, accounting, and production a priority within your client's business. You also learn the wisdom pyramid, how to actually take the information you're providing to your clients and effectively use it so that they can make more informed business decisions. This book is designed to help you communicate more effectively with your clients and, in fact, have them see you as their profit and growth expert. Get your free copy now of the ebook today, In the Black, 9 Principles to Make Your Business Profitable.
So to go back to the percentages, just so we can get these, and I misspoke earlier, I said percent of gross, and that's not what I meant. What it is you're suggesting that as much as 14 to 18% of the compensation, their payroll and benefits needs to be made up in those core type things, such as the health insurance and so forth. You indicated that as much as 2% should be allocated to the WOW. What was the other things like short-term disability and so forth? What was the percentage there?
About 5.
About 5%. So we've got 14 to 18 plus 5 plus 2. Those things then make up, obviously, the additional things that are above and beyond the actual compensation of what they're receiving, whether it be an hourly, a salary, and commissions and so forth, right?
That's right. Now, and I'm doing those as a percentage of your payroll.
Yes, percentage of payroll. That's my point.
So if you go and look up these statistics online, go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and those things, I highly recommend. It's very fascinating reading to me. Those are, when you look on there, you'll see 30 and 35%, but those are percentages that include, that's percentages of total comp, which includes the numbers you're looking at, right? So the 100% is salary plus benefits plus retirement plus PTO, blah, 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 add it all up. About 30 to 38% of that is the tax advantage comp. But most small business owners don't have that number in their head, but they know their payroll, right? So just take the payroll number and look at more in those percentages you gave. Yeah.
Perfect. No, this is very helpful. I find this is a healthy exercise to not only do with our company, but more importantly with the clients and see what is it that's going on there, because this may lend itself to be a great conversation about them either spending too little or too much as it relates to what they're doing from a compensation standpoint. But from an accounting point of view, this empowers us to actually have that intelligent conversation. So I really appreciate it. So I'm going to now go to another area, because I know that there are some huge pain points that accountants experience. And I'm wondering, is there a big mistake that businesses make in this area as to benefits and so forth? What are some of the things that we ought to avoid?
Well, everything I do, I break into return on labor and risk mitigation. And what I often find, accountants come to me for risk mitigation, and then we pay for ourselves with return on labor. Accountants come to me because they go, oh gosh, we have a compliance problem, right? And those are almost things that if you're working with your client, we have a program, the LRRA, the Labor Risk and Return Advisory Program, which you guys are welcome to check out, where we spend about 12 meetings going through some of the key parts to look at. But one thing I just want you to kind of think about is that in small business, and again, I think that's the majority of your audience, the accountants and their clients are probably in that sub 50, sub 100 employee range. Not all of you. Those of you bigger, y'all probably already figured out a lot of your HR. It's purely missing large structural processes. And so I want to give you guys a list of processes that you can look at your organization and say, we don't have anything, or at least we got something and it's working okay. Okay. So process 1 is organizational design. Do you have a process to figure out what your overall org structure should be and where it should be if you were to say double in size or grow by 50% or something like that?
Okay.
This is primarily the question of who to hire next, right? And you want to look at their principles involved in this, things like span of control, right? Don't have 40 people reporting to one manager. There's a lot of different pieces to that, but you're going to know your organization. And so think first about designing your org. Then do you have a process for designing a job? And this is where I start seeing people get already not there. Job design is looking at, I'm going to hire somebody. I think I need somebody who does this thing. And you want to have a process that allows you to look at the requirements of the job, call that job analysis, figure out if the skills and competencies needed to do that job and whether it's likely to find that human under any circumstance, right? If you need a graphic designer who knows accounting and also can run a team and do some sales, you've probably designed the job wrong.
Yeah.
Take a minute to scope it down. Okay. And then turn that into a good job description. Okay. That's job design. Then there's recruiting. Most people do this by the seat of their pants, small businesses, but you need a recruiting process going from job description to job advertisement to job screening. How do you look at resumes and come up with who you're going to talk to, we often call it a screening interview. So what's that quick interview look like? What's that main interview look like? What's that final interview look like? And you can get huge return by defining those processes and following the same script. Just like you wouldn't try to create your product from scratch every time, coming up with a new way, you would create a process so that you can tweak it and improve it over time. Recruiting. Onboarding. Most companies realize they need an onboarding system of some kind. Look at your onboarding process. The goal of onboarding is to move someone from an enthusiastic new hire to a person who would make the same decisions as you would without your intervention. That's the goal. Now look at your onboarding and tell me if you've done anything related to that. Most of the time, the answer is no. Most of the time, onboarding is we gave them a handbook and a bunch of blank sheets of paper, kind of crooked, from a black and white coffee center, and we told them to fill it out and call me when they're done, right? Think about your onboarding just like you would a client. Performance management. So how do we maintain performance standards, benefits and compensation? How do we figure out what to pay and how to provide benefits? And then offboarding. How do we get rid of people that we don't need, that we don't like, that we got to get rid of? Or what do we do when we lose somebody we wanted to keep, right? Those offboarding processes. Take that list, use ChatGPT, figure out what your processes should be for those. The majority of businesses that I talk to that got to 50 and 100 employees, you don't need a great process. You will get great return out of investing in these things, but good Lord, just have one. Spend an hour a week for the next 10 weeks as the business owner and make a plan for those things. And you will find your ability to attract and retain talent, that their time from hire to productivity shrinks hugely. I love going into companies and they're like, we don't do anything for that. It's like, great. I can take a new hire and make them productive in half the time that you did. And I can do it in a month. It's such a low-hanging fruit. So if you all did that, I'd probably be out of a job because about half of our clients we're walking in are they got nothing. The fun ones that I get involved in are the ones where they've got a lot going on, but they didn't do it right, or they're not quite, we need to grow that efficiency. But I would say start with that, look at those processes and put those in place.
I think so often, especially smaller businesses, what you just described is more ad hoc. It's not a process. It's not a system. It's done in haste and it's done haphazardly. So that's where the problems happen. That's where mistakes are made. And more importantly, that's where I think frustrations come out. It's because it's not organized. It's not structured. And so we're just creating our own problem. And it's perhaps with the belief that we're never going to hire that type of a person again, and this isn't going to happen the second time. But in reality, you hire somebody and you lose them. You got to hire another person to do it again. I mean, it's a revolving door in many regards, and there's so often that opportunity to take what you've done right once and document it so you can do it again right the next time. So yeah, I really appreciate you outlining what you just shared. So here's what I'm going to do. Our time is spent. I mean, this has clearly been a wonderful conversation. You've shared some amazing things. I'm going to do a few things. One, I'm going to do an offer. I think this is a great offer for everyone to be aware of. I'm going to do a summary, and I'm going to come back to you for a closing thought. But as for the offer, I really want to point this out for my listeners. This is an opportunity for you to not only learn what it is that you can be doing to apply these principles in your business, but Rhamy is actually giving you the opportunity to participate in a partnership program where you can actually introduce Rhamy to your clients, these individuals that you're working with regularly, that you're able to see perhaps areas of improvement that can clearly take place from an HR perspective, and introducing Rhamy to them might be the solution they need to take the business to the next level and really perhaps eliminate some of the challenges and stresses you're experiencing from the accounting point of view. So definitely reach out to Rhamy and take advantage of this opportunity to become part of his partnership program to introduce your clients to an HR program that will essentially help that business not only run more efficiently, but grow. And I really want to emphasize that. So definitely take advantage of the going to the episode description and getting information regarding the People Processes Partnership Program, and see what it is you can do to learn more about what Rhamy does for his clients, what you can do to perhaps implement these processes within your own company. But most importantly, take this to your client base and assist them in actually working on their businesses and incorporating into their companies those HR principles that will enable them to work more efficiently and grow. So take advantage of that opportunity today. In addition to this, I also want to invite you to the Accountrepreneurs Challenge. This is a challenge that's enabling you to actually work on your business. It is a 90-day challenge that is free. It consists of weekly exercises, challenges that you can actually do, some of which each week are nothing more than 5, 10, 15 minutes, others of which might be an hour of time, basically enabling you to work on things that are efficient for you to become a great leader, a great accountant, and at the same time, work on your business and build the premier accounting firm. So I encourage you to go to the episode description and find out what it is you can do to now enroll in the Accountrepreneurs Challenge. It's an easy process. It's with your email that you're able to receive those weekly notifications of various things that you can be doing to work both on you and your business to better service your clients and grow the premier accounting firm in your area. The second thing I want to do is invite you to GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual conference. It is an event you do not want to miss. This is for owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. It's a conference where we actually bring to the stage those experts, individuals that actually have insights as to what it is we should be doing to work on our business. It's here that we actually get to find out what we can do to better work efficiently, market and sell our services, be more effective with our clients, helping them actually take advantage of services related to what we can do so that they can actually grow their companies. Just so many insights from the experts to actually help us remain very relevant as accounting professionals. It's also here that you get to meet your peers, those individuals that you're basically working amongst that are doing extremely well. They're thriving, and you get to learn from one another. And at the same time, perhaps even collaborate to better service your clients. So join me for GrowCon, and I look forward to seeing you there. Go to the episode description for information about it, or you can go to universalaccounting.com, and in the site navigation, you can actually find information regarding the event itself. So register now and join me for GrowCon. As for a summary, I love speaking to Rhamy. Rhamy is always someone that brings a great perspective to business. I enjoyed at the very beginning, we were able to discuss some things as it relates to people and processes. I mean, clearly, the processes make what we do efficient. They're documented. They're things that make it so that they're repeatable. I love processes, but we can't negate those people, especially those individuals that are really doing the lion's share of the business, the people that are the core of what we do here. And I think that was a great illustration of how the Pareto principle plays into companies. It's that there are key employees that do what they do very well, and we want to actually duplicate them. And if we can actually somehow figure out what they're doing right and duplicate it, that's going to be to our advantage. But from that, we had that conversation regarding benefits. That was very telling to me. I did not realize, I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but I didn't know the percentages as it relates to what it is that we should be paying in addition to the monetary compensation of the employee towards benefits. And I think that was a healthy conversation to understand that there are some core things that are essential to be offering as businesses that are necessary to recruit and also retain individuals. But there's also this other part of it of those less obvious, maybe soft type core things that we ought to consider. But the wow factor really excited me because there clearly are things that you can actually invest in and actually give to your employees that will make them feel as if they're actually part of a great culture, and more importantly, want to stay on with the company and perhaps even speak of you to get more clients and hire greater employees. So that whole element of not only what those things consisted of, but the percentages of what they make up, or what part of that is made up in the payroll, that was helpful to me because it's definitely something I want to go back and look at with my own business and with my clients and see what it is they're experiencing. I'm curious how they fall into those averages. That being said, one of the things that I think was also helpful is just realizing that as accounting professionals, even though we may not want to admit it, we are involved in the HR side of business, and where it's sometimes by default falling on our shoulders, it's great to have a resource like Rhamy available that we can actually partner with and have someone like Rhamy with his expertise and with his team go into our clients and actually assist them in not only making their businesses more efficient, but most importantly, help them grow. So definitely enjoyed the conversation today. Rhamy, what would you like to end with as a final thought?
Well, I just wanted to thank you, Roger. Actually, last year we actually talked about helping out UAC from some business pieces.
Uh-huh.
And you inspired me from that conversation. As I mentioned, a lot of our groups that we work with over the years, you don't normally call up the HR company to say, come take over my HR unless it's pretty much a disaster, right? It's like, I need help. I'm a small company and I've never done it before, or I'm a large company and it's all gone to a bad time. And you inspired me, and I've actually worked with some of other UAC members over the last year to work on this strategic HR piece where we can come in and rather than executing and actually being your HR team, we now have a whole consulting side. And it's been a place of incredible growth. So just from our conversation, I guess that was last May, June, July.
Yeah.
And speaking with some of the other UAC folks, we were able to develop, it's on our website, kind of two paths now that have been incredibly, it's been successful from our business side. And it's allowed us to work with a lot more people than we otherwise would have been able to. So I wanted to thank you for that. You guys, if you're looking for good business advice, Roger's the guy. And he really made an impact on my business last year after going to GrowCon and discussing that with him. So thank you.
Rhamy, that was wonderful. I appreciate that update. And I was not aware of that. So thank you. I was aware you're working with certain individuals that I've spoken with. So I knew of that, but I didn't realize the ramification of it. And that's wonderful.
It came from talking to you. You have Roger's got a great team. He's a great HR team. And we went in there and we said, well, there's things we could do, but you're doing great. You don't need us to take over. There are some things you need to do better, or here's some, but I don't want to just come in and take over when you've got a great team.
Yeah.
And it was not the first time that's happened, but it was the first time that I went home and went, I wanted to work with Roger. That's ridiculous. I need a better product. And over the next 3 or 4 months, we wound up meeting with a few more people that had similar circumstances. And that's what caused us to launch our strategic HR program. So we have complete HR, we do it all, and strategic HR, where we advise, design, and do minimal like auditing and execution.
I love it.
It's been a blast, and it's allowed me to work with dozens more people than I would have otherwise. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's beautiful. Rhamy, I'm looking forward to learning more about that. So this is great. So
I'll see you at GrowCon. We'll talk about it.
At GrowCon it will be. So this is beautiful. All right. Well, with that said, I'm going to wrap things up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. We'd love to have you here each and every week to participate in these conversations wherein you get to listen to the experts and hear what it is they have to say about things related to your business and that of better servicing your clients. So subscribe now, set your notifications, and join us each and every week for various episodes that we have for you to work on your business. That said, I also want to invite you to go to universalaccounting.com, and there you'll actually find in the navigation podcast highlights. Here we've actually compiled various playlists, various things that you can focus on as it relates to your business today, whether you're trying to grow your business and need marketing and sales strategies. Excellent conversations over the last number of years that you can binge listen to, and I encourage you to do so. In addition to that, you can binge listen things related to tech stacks, onboarding clients, retaining clients, pricing, so many topics that you can actually consider as you're both starting and building your business. In addition, I do want to invite you to GrowCon. Rhamy is right. It's the place you need to be. It's here that so many things happen. And like he indicated, there are lots of ideas that come from those conversations that individuals have. And I encourage you to come and have your mind blown. Why? Because you're going to experience not only what it is that the experts are doing, but what your peers are also focusing on as they thrive in their organization. That said, I do want to invite you to also reach out to Universal Accounting Center. If you have questions regarding our various programs, we'd love to speak with you. Feel free to go to Universal Accounting School to learn more, or give us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is Universal. Take care and be safe out there.